Not everybody can have access to a fully loaded bike shop worthy workshop at their own home. And if you were to try and buy all the tools you need, first of all, you're going to need a big space, and secondly, an even bigger wallet. But there are some tools or types of tools that every rider should have in their collection. And with these basics, you should be able to strip down your bike or cope with pretty much any maintenance issues that might come up. So this is our rundown of the tools that every person should have. First up is a really good set of hex keys, or Allen keys as some people like to call them. At the moment, every bike pretty much uses Allen keys for most of the bolts holding the components and parts of the frame together. So you can either get these as a multi-tool or as separates to do the job. Separates are a little bit easier to use in a workshop setting because you can get into those really tight places. But from a practicality point of view, just having a set of Allen keys in a multi-tool like this means that you can just have everything to hand in one go and get those jobs done really, really quickly. After the hex keys comes something called a TORX key. Now, most bikes use a TORX key for your disc brakes, but if you've got SRAM brakes as well, then what you'll find is that the levers themselves have those TORX key bolts on there. So a good set of TORX keys will be able to help you to tighten everything up alongside your hex keys. The most common ones are a T25 and a T30. Even if you just get those two, those are pretty much cope with most things. But a good set of TORX keys is a real essential to have in your collection. A good set of cable cutters is an essential to have as well. So if you want to change your gear cables, then having something like these park tools here is going to make that job so much easier. You can obviously use a set of pliers to do that, but for cutting those hard outers, there's nothing like a proper cable cutter to do the job properly. Using them properly means you can cut it perfectly straight, which means your shifting is going to be as good as possible. It's going to be neat. You're not going to cause any damage to the cables as well, and basically make the job look as professional as possible. Now, as well as those cable cutters, a good set of pliers is an essential to have. So if you need to be able to grip something or to tighten something or hold it, then a good set of needle nose pliers or the normal wider set of pliers is a real good option to have. I prefer using needle nose pliers because it means that you can obviously get into those delicate areas, especially if you're still using things like front derailleurs. You can get to that cable nice and easily and you can tighten that up. If you want to expand the pliers out a little bit more than just having a set of needle nose pliers, a set of side cutters is an option to have as well. These come in real handy if you use a lot of zip ties, so you can use these to cut them nice and neat so you don't get the sharp jagged edges. And at a push, obviously they will cope with cutting an inner cable. So if an inner gear cable needs cutting, then you can use these as well. So a good set of side cutters is a real good thing to have. Coming up next, we've got a chain tool. So having a decent quality chain tool. Now this is obviously a workshop one, so you don't really want to be carrying that around, but having something like this is going to make changing a chain when your chain is worn a doddle. Super easy to use. It's nice and strong, so it's going to be able to break that chain easily. And the other good thing as well is a good robust chain tool will mean when you come to put a chain back on, if you pin it on properly, it's not going to cause any stiff links or any issues at all with that. So certainly a good quality chain tool should be in your collection. No decent home workshop is complete without a set of screwdrivers. Obviously you can go overboard and have every single type of screwdriver, but really you only need two. So a relatively thin flathead screwdriver and then a relatively small crosshead or posi drive or Phillips head screwdriver as well. So these are really useful when it comes to doing derailleur adjustments. So limit screws, you can use both of these to actually adjust those limit screws. And then if there's any other areas of your bike that use these, then again, perfect to use for those situations. If we go on to doing some work with your tyres, there are two real important essentials. Number one is a good quality track pump. So there's nothing that makes your life easier than using a proper track pump rather than trying to use a small mini pump to do your tyres all the time. First of all, it makes short work of pumping up even the biggest of tyres. But secondly, it means that you can accurately measure your tyre pressures. Especially on larger tyres where 1 or 2 psi can make a big difference. having something where you can actually adjust it easily. Something like this giant control tower here has actually got a bleed nipple on the back, so if you want to, you can just add or take away air pressure relatively quickly by using this. As well as that, a good quality tyre lever. Again, you don't need to be carrying this around, but in the workshop, having the tyre lever is going to make your life a lot easier. So you can use these to take your tyres off very easily. I really like this Crank Brothers one. It's got several different features about it. It looks slightly different. First of all, you put your hand in, so when you do your tyres, it means it doesn't damage your knuckles, which is always a bonus if you take off a lot of tyres, the amount of times you can actually hit things. It's nice and long. It's nice and stiff, so it copes with those really, really chunky tyres. And there's also a little slot on here where you can use it to actually push the tyres back on. So good quality tyre levers are essential to have on there. They're not lazy, they're just a really good tool to have. While we're talking about air, we might as well talk about a shock pump as well. Most modern mountain bikes require a shock pump. If you've got full suspension, chances are one part of that suspension is going to be an air shock. And also if you've got a hardtail, chances are you might have an air shock on the front as well. So a shock pump allows you to change the air pressure on that to set it up exactly as you want. You can't do it any other way. Most of the tools we talked about are pretty general, but one of the ones that I think that everyone should have, and it's the start of your specialist tool collection, is a chain whip and cassette tool. So these are pretty chunky ones, these Park ones here, but what they allow you to do is they allow you to take off your cassette and change cassettes around. So effectively, it's probably one of the only parts of your bike that needs a specific tool to do that job, and you can't do it any other way. So having your own chain tool and chain whip is going to make that job a lot easier. Some brakes that use center lock rotors also need a cassette tool to actually be able to tighten them up or loosen them. So again, it doubles up on there. And the great thing about these is once you've got them, then at the moment, it doesn't matter how many gears you've got, it's going to work. So that works for both SRAM and Shimano shifting. So a real good thing to have. So there you have it. Those are pretty much the tools that every rider should have in their collection. It's a fairly basic setup, but fairly comprehensive. So you can pretty much cope with most things that can happen on the bike using these tools at home. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you've got any tools that you think are essential to your workshop, don't forget to put it in the comment section below.